All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of those Muckrakers. I used to have a long intro, but I got bored with it because I don't even like pretending that we're what the alt-right calls us at this point.
It was fun for a little bit, just like how I used to talk about Married with Children at the end of every episode.
Oh yeah, I forgot we used to do that.
Yeah, but we have our little things, and then we let them go as our minds drift and wander.
So I'm Peter.
And I'm Pat.
And yeah, man, there is a lot of stuff that's happening in the news right now, and we'll get into as whenever I finally end up tuning into some news that's not the normal bullshit of whatever the president said or whatever psycho things happening right now. There's a
lot this week. There was like a regular buffet of insanity that just sort of peppered the whole week.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the background, and I'm like, man, remember when the news was maybe one political issue, and then we were just like, stem cells. Should we take them from babies?
Yeah, let's go way back in time to 2012, right?
Yeah.
Back then, I still remember how the news cycles would go. It would be, this week, this is the main topic. It's just one topic, and the news would laser focus on it. And then at the end of the week, they'd let it go, and you'd never hear about it again. No matter how serious the issue was or not serious it was, it would carry on for 1 week.
Yeah.
And CNN did that right up until the Malaysian airliner, and then they never got off that subject.
That was my favorite thing that ever happened to you, how angry you were. That like they just were like, I don't know why, but it's keeping ratings high. Just keep talking about it.
Right, that was whenever their ratings spiked above Fox News, and that's why they kept staying on it. But, I mean, Jesus, it was months and months of the same story, and there was never any updates. Like, they had random craziness, like Don Lemon guessed it could have been a black hole sucked in the plane.
Yeah.
But really, like, at the end of the day, it was what you said, right? The ocean is freaking big, and the plane is freaking tiny compared to the freaking big ocean.
Yeah,
to quote the current president of the United States, is surrounded by water, okay? Big water, ocean water.
What's really interesting is I actually watched one of those. There was a science show on the Bermuda Triangle, and the science show was like the mysterious Bermuda Triangle. Well, actually, it's just a rough patch of ocean with a lot of storms, and turns out it's really easy for ships and planes to crash and then break up and then not to be found. And then I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense because it's the fucking ocean.
Yeah.
And then that kind of colored all of my other like, what happened to yep, the ocean.
Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, the ocean. Whatever. Yeah, give me any disappearing plane thing, and I'm gonna give you the answer, and it's the ocean.
Fake sirens. Okay. Sad.
Yeah, maybe it was sirens. Maybe they were lured to an island for up to 10 years.
It was krakens. Okay. Jobs.
Yeah. So I guess before we get into the fucking main event of all the stuff going on with the president, fascinatingly, like what's been going on in real news is all this stuff is going on with these biohackers. Have you read about this?
I have. Tell us about it, Pete.
Yeah, well, like it's basically people that are thwarting traditional research. Or at least safe for human trials because they say that these bio things are moving far too fast, and these people are injecting themselves as experiments. Because I guess the law says you can't test on other humans, but you can sure as hell inject yourself with a virus that we don't know anything about.
Somebody out there developed a kit that's available to the public. You, listener, can buy this now if you wanted. It's just a DNA splicing kit where you can alter your own DNA. And it's as simple as injecting yourself with something that you put together.
Yeah, it's called, I believe it's called CRISPR. It's the, CRISPR is the, I guess the thing that you use that attaches and then hacks your DNA. The guy that did it that you're talking about, his name is Josiah Zayner. He's what do you call it? He's the guy that I believe he injected himself on live stream with CRISPR with a DNA coding thing to make him stronger.
I see that going one of two ways. One, I just got through watching a very recent movie named Cabin Fever
Yeah.
about these teens that go out into the woods with the murder hillbillies, right?
Yeah.
And there's something in the water that makes all their skin start falling off.
Wait. You just now watching that movie that came out like 1998?
No, no, no. There's been a bunch of different versions of it. This one was made in like 2016 or 15.
Oh,
Because
okay. All right.
they
Wait.
reference Grand Theft Auto 5 and Minecraft and that type
Okay,
of
gotcha,
stuff.
gotcha. Wait, so how is that like injecting yourself with a fucking super soldier serum?
Because it could end up being something that just tells all your skin to fall off.
Right. So they said that it was
You, you,
unlikely
you
to.
don't really know how it's going to
Yeah,
react until it's in you.
exactly. That's why like these people are kind of like the cowboys of biomedical research. If cowboys were drawing down on themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like if a
my
cowboy was like shooting himself, like
my other thought about how this could turn out is have you ever seen 28 Days Later?
yeah.
No,
Of
not
course, of
wait
course.
wait not that one. I'm sorry. I Am Legend.
Yeah. I've seen I Am Legend. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the thing
so
is like.
basically just the lady sitting there and saying, and now this cure for the common cold will make life healthier for all of us. And then it's
Right.
like, however long later and just the streets are empty.
Yeah, so I
Womp
mean,
womp.
yeah. So you've got, on one hand, we could see the beginning of the Marvel universe happen in our lifetime.
Which would be amazing. Hook me up.
Yeah,
Inject me. I don't care what it does.
yeah. Shoot me up with some super soldier serum, or it could create a deadly super virus that kills everybody or turns them into zombies. Um, but
I'm gonna go
ultimately,
get a. I'm gonna go stake out a good place at the mall, which would suck these days to be in Dawn of the Dead, because there's like no good places at the mall, right? Instead of there being like a bunch of varieties of things you could defend yourself against zombies with, it'd be like a bunch of closed stores and a kiosk.
yeah, yeah. Good luck defending yourself in a sunglass hut. But the thing about the Zayner, I'm not that worried about is he holds a PhD in biochemistry and biophysics, right? So
Right.
I'm not worried about this dude. Like I think he'll be fine. What makes me mad about the articles I read was there's no so far like the Atlantic article and the other articles I read didn't say if it worked or not. Like they were like Zayner is now incredibly strong. He was bending a steel bar with his hand while we interviewed him. So that was kind of annoying that they didn't say if it works or not. But he's still
Yeah.
selling the do-it-yourself DNA splicing kits. So those people, the like the
I want to
do-it-yourself.
know.
Go ahead.
They have not told us why does he regret doing that, injecting himself. Did something happen?
No, like nothing happens to him. He just regretted it because he realized that he kind of started the what do you call it?
Oh, started the trend of people experimenting on
Yes,
themselves.
He basically by injecting himself, people are gonna like up the ante, you know, because
Speaking of experimenting on yourself, you remember that Tide Pod craze that the news was going on about?
yeah. See, that again,
Legitimate fake news that never happened.
yeah, it never happened. Also, who cares? Like like anytime there's a stupid news story about, can you believe kids? I'm like, dude, I've got about a million photos of you clean cut morons from the 20s trying to stuff yourselves into a phone booth. So, like, I don't want to hear these kids are eating to like. It's the same thing. Did you ever hear about the rainbow parties that never happened?
Rainbow parties?
Okay,
What's
so
this?
kids were basically having rainbow parties, where I guess a guy and a bunch of girls would hang out in a room, and all the girls would wear different color lipstick, and they would all give the dude a blowjob, and then he would have a rainbow colored penis because of all the different colored lipstick. I don't know if anybody in the newsroom has ever gotten a blowjob, but you're gonna probably be able to get through about maybe two sets of lipstick, maybe. Also, it's not going to create a rainbow. There's just going to be a nasty collage of like gunked up lipstick on your penis.
Yeah, it'd be a Jason Pollock penis.
Yeah,
Jason
yeah.
Pollock
They
pecker.
should have been called Jackson Pollock parties. Anyway, they were like, "Oh, is this happening?" No, that doesn't. That never happened anywhere because you'd have to be a 40-year-old unsatisfied house mom to believe that that's a real thing.
Yeah, like A and B. I would have been disappointed as soon as I show up. I'm like, so we're not chasing leprechauns. There's no like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? I'm out. I'm out. But sir, please stay. We have the lipstick. I don't care. I'm gone. There's no unicorns here. This is a rainbow party, and there's no screw it. I'm out of here.
I want to just start writing fake news headlines that get picked up like, is your kid having a cream corn party? Check your pantry. And what it is kids are just buttering up ears of corn and fucking sticking them in each other's asses till they cream. Um,
I saw the Backstreet Boys do it.
And that, yeah, and I'm certain that'll take off. It's just, and that's that's the crappiest kind of reporting, because it's exploitative and it wastes news space. So you're talking about that. So they're talking about stupid stuff like
Well,
that when
a
like
lot of the times there is nothing going on. Like you're about to say that other stuff's going on. They could be talking about. Yeah, they could talk about world news, but for the most part, people won't tune in to hear what's happening
then talk about the
overseas.
biohacker who injected himself. That's fascinating. You know what I mean? Like there's always
That is. I would like to see more news outlets
give me,
talk about
dude.
stuff like that.
There's so much smart stuff happening right now. Like we're focused on that.
Locals wouldn't understand, and
No, I
the news
disagree.
agencies would never try to teach them
I
because they want to keep people dumb.
I disagree. I think that people will tune into the standard at which like people. Okay, so people act and people perform the way society expects them to, right?
So if we remodel it so that society expects them to understand DNA splicing,
Yes.
that would be nice. That would be
Yes.
that would be utopic. Right?
My example is
That would
the
be really
the
cool.
CSI effect. So, like, you know about this. Like, prosecutors and like public defenders and stuff are like both happy and kind of annoyed because so many people understand DNA testing now because of those crime procedurals.
Right.
So you don't have to educate the populace. You just have to like put it on the news, put it in something popular. So they're like, "Oh, I've heard of this gene splicing thing. That was where that nice young man caused a virus to make his arm real strong. He could lift cars with his left arm, but it also left him sterile." Like that would be amazing if your grandmother's talking about biohacking. Like, and I think it's just whatever you expect people to do. And here's the reason I'm mad at the media. I read a Newsweek article the other day, and I don't know if you've ever yelled out loud while reading something, but that either means
Constantly.
you're 80 years old or you're real angry. It was an article on oh my god,
I feel 80.
huh?
I said I feel 80.
So it was an article, and this was right after right after our president went off in all caps threatening Iran.
Oh, I have the tweet ready to read. And their response, which was also in all caps.
So go ahead and read the tweet. Give us the story, and I'm going to tell you about this Newsweek article that made me so upset.
So, while everything else was looking like worse and worse and worse for Trump, just randomly at 3 a.m., he released a tweet in all capital letters besides the first four words, which was to Iranian President Rouhani, and then everything else is in caps, right? Never, ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demands. Words of violence and death. Be cautious. And this goes back to what we've said over and over again about the president. He doesn't actually like to do anything. He just
Right.
likes to have that photo op, right? Like him yelling in all caps will make his followers be like, "See, he's not putting up with shit anymore."
It makes
America's
his
tough."
it makes his base happy because a lot of people that are his most diehard supporters are the same kinds of people that would in all caps on Twitter like threaten like their city councilmen with violence.
Right. I mean, so first of all, the thing is, walk quietly but carry a big stick is fucking presidential. Ranting in all caps is an 8-year-old that just got owned in Fortnite, right? It's fucking childish.
Yeah.
That's what the deplorables don't understand. But also, Jesus.
Well, I
But
say this is why I
this
say
is going to make it harder to talk to them about the president and explain that he's very weak on terror because
Yeah.
he doesn't actually do anything on terror.
yeah, well-
he just makes matters worse by stirring the pot.
Well, again, if we had brought and that's a problem. We have a cultural problem too as a country. We have the Western world has a problem where, especially our country, like we're not teaching people to be smart and understand subtlety and learn about biohacking on the news. If you look at most news, it's a bunch of stuff like new study shows could chocolate be good for you? Like, dude, come on, really? Like, this is the news? Like,
The cut out bacon and lose lots of weight versus the amazing baking diet.
yeah. Can you see Walter Cronkite doing these dumb fluff pieces?
No.
Tonight on the news, a squirrel that knows how to water ski.
I have seen that on the news, by the way.
Right, but you haven't. But you don't see like the old hard-boiled, like hard drinking,
Reporters, no.
heart attack having, female harassing. Because I mean, I know that back then wasn't like the good old days, but it seemed like people at one point took the news a little bit more seriously.
Yeah. Whenever we had like 3 channels, and so whenever the evening news came on, people paid attention to it, and that's why America knew to turn against Richard Nixon, because he was a fucking crook.
Right.
But that's when Richard Nixon made up the liberal biased media, so that people would think that that would explain to anyone listening to him why the media kept calling him a crook, is they're biased against him.
Yeah.
But it didn't really stick. But
so
the Republicans kept running with it. But two things very quickly. What was it? All right. So because of little things like subtlety and reality, that's why conservatives just stand around saying, "See, libtards are getting all triggered whenever the president comes out next tough." No, they're getting annoyed that he's stirring the pot and making things much worse overseas.
Well,
just like with the whole North Korea deal, right? Like, he didn't do anything over there, but he got his photo op, which was way better for Kim Jong-un than him.
Yeah.
But then he went home and replaced the pictures of famous American heroes and true American allies with pictures of fucking Kim Jong-un.
Right.
Like, those are all over the White House now. But that's one thing. But two, the Iranian president actually did respond to that tweet, and he also responded in all caps, "Color us unimpressed."
Good. So here's the positive that comes out of that is I think that like people realize that like he does not speak for all of us or most of us, and he's proven. And here's the good thing about him is he's proven that he does nothing. Like, he speaks loudly and carries a very unsubstantial stick, or carries a signed photograph of himself to hand to people. So
he carries a very tiny stick, and Michael Cohen used to pay people $130,000 to shut up about it.
Right, now to talk about it. But like, here's what made me mad. So you have this, right? Now what there is no excuse for is fucking Newsweek, which is supposed to be like a reputable news organization. They ran an article, and I was fuming when I read this because it was a waste of space. It was stupid. And the article was, if the United States and Iran went to war, how will the two militaries stack up against each other? Huh. And then so then they proceeded to write this stupid article, which is like...
two things. One, we'd stomp them into the ground, and two, it would be an endless quagmire from which there's no escape.
Yeah, so it said that,
so,
it took a whole article to say that, but then like, the United States also has a nuclear option that they could use. And I'm like, no, we can't use it. You know why we can't use it? Because China and Russia also have a fucking nuclear option. And if anybody starts lobbing nukes at one of the proxy states, we all get nuked, so we don't have a nuclear option. But thank you for your analysis of like that we would crush them, because that's what it said. Every paragraph it would go, we have this army, Iran has this army, their planes are kind of old, we'd crush them. Okay, let's look at like, and it really was just like, it was the laziest journalism I've ever seen. Also completely unnecessary.
America's military, we have more money in our military than like the next 20 states combined times 10. It's not even remotely close. We spend orders of magnitude more on our military than any other country. I was so angry. I'm like,
why would you even run this article? This is This is unnecessary. This is lazy. This is not even good geopolitical analysis. Like, they really should be ashamed of themselves. Like, and like, why? All you're doing is like reinforcing what the president says.
Yeah, it's again, it's a waste of space because fucking Trump says it. Because he's president, we have to pretend like it's not the ramblings of a fucking nut job. Like, who was it? Trevor Noah maybe was saying that if everything that comes from him is just the ramblings of a deranged New York lunatic, and that if he wasn't president, he would be the guy that just sits in the park like feeding pigeons and naming them after football players. And everyone could safely ignore him.
The name of the article, by the way, is America versus Iran. Can U.S. military win a war against Islamic Republic by David Brennan. Go fuck yourself.
It should be like, could 12 well-in-shape football players win a war against a series of fire ant beds? Well, I mean, yeah, but like it would take a while and it would be annoying.
Well, punching myself in
And
the dick make me throw up. And then you could just do a whole article of analysis
my,
on
my
like,
my my fist and my balls. Who would win in a fight?
yeah, and you could just do a fucking a whole
Uh,
a whole expose on like, well, you know, uh, the fist is stronger than the balls, but punching yourself in the balls will bring you to will tie you up in an endless quagmire and is virtually an unwinnable fight.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like
A good analogy.
yeah, well, maybe that'll be when we finally roll out the website. That'll be the first article that we write. Like the fist versus balls, who would win?
Right, but it has to be like your own fist and your own balls. If it's someone else's balls, then that's not as much
Of course, yeah, no doubt, yeah. It's
similar
got to
analogy.
be your fist versus your balls. Who will win?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, like 100%. Yeah, because it doesn't work if it's not your balls.
I
But yeah, like so, fucking. We got to fix our media, man. Like, the problem is you either need to be hard news or you need to be like exploitative fluff. But like, I don't know, man. Like, we need some truth back in journalism, like, because you're supposed to be the watchdogs of things, not what do you call those? The shows? I'm losing brain cells here. The kind of show that Trump was on, The Apprentice. That's called a what? Not a scripted show, but
reality TV.
yeah. You're supposed to be news, not reality fucking TV. Like, the news should not care about the ratings. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah. Speaking of watchdogs and journalists that hold people in government accountable, Alex Jones this week bravely came out against Mueller, calling him not only a pedophile, but someone that fucks children in front of people and films it.
Well, he can't even.
And because of this, he should be shot dead.
Right, so he couldn't even agree. I watched the clip. He couldn't even decide. So he was like, "Well, Mueller doesn't actually fuck the kids, but he orchestrates these pedophile planes that fly children out to places to be fucked."
It's like, what's terrifying about this is that most of the time, whenever the right wing accuses the left of something,
They're
it's
doing
stuff
it.
that they do
Right.
actively all the time, right? And that's why they want to get out ahead of the news and start saying
So-
that the other side
right.
does it,
So
that
how many-
if it's said back to them, they could be like, "Well, see, but many sides are saying the same thing. Forget it. It's all just mudslinging."
Yeah. So how many child sex planes has Alex Jones been on?
Probably a lot. I mean, it's terrifying.
Well, the other problem
But
with it is too.
Also, it's him threatening to murder Mueller, which puts the idea of murdering Mueller in his viewers' heads.
Right. Well, not even it puts it into like. So there's always going to be like the David Berkowitz people who are like, the dog told me to kill people. But the problem is, like, whenever it's not the dog, when it's somebody on a thing called Infowars, it sounds like news. They're gonna. It's a crazy bearded man told me to shoot Mueller. Like, yeah, like that's every time we talk about this. Like we talk with Milo Yiannopoulos, like saying he can't wait till death squads are in the streets gunning down journalists. Then journalists get gunned down. Like, and I watched the clip where he was going like, "Oh, I'd love to be in a high noon, shootout with Mueller," and then he would go, "But politically, yeah," and then he kept like pretending to draw a gun, going, "But yeah, politically," and I'm like, that doesn't make it not a threat. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. It's still putting the idea in people's heads.
yeah. Like, and that's a problem. It's like,
it goes back to the whole, will someone do something about this meddling priest? It's
yeah. And I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling priests. That's the darkest episode of Scooby-Doo ever, where someone stabs a priest to death.
Yeah.
Speaking of priests, I've been watching a lot of Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
Because it's available on Amazon Prime, like the original, and it is so good. It's so good, and it also makes you feel like a super genius because they don't have forensics in 1986. So it's a bunch of shit like, we found a skeleton, and we have no way of determining who it belongs to.
And if you say that they don't have the internet back then, people will be like all smarmy and split hairs and be like, actually, the internet's been around since 1970, yada yada. It's like, yeah, well, I mean, like, internet that people can use and it is good for anything.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't really exist until the mid-90s.
Can you believe that we were born into a world, and for a long part of our lives, where if they just had a skeleton and they didn't have any obvious people with no skeleton in their body, they don't know whose it is, because skeletons don't have fingerprints, man.
Yeah, they just walk around and be like, excuse me, sir, are you missing your skeleton? Why, no, my skeleton's right
All,
here intact. All
all,
accounted for.
all we really had was dental records. Um,
Yeah.
God, it's crazy. There was an episode I watched where it's so not only is like so there's all these things, all these murders happening, and they have no way to solve them. That's one of my favorite things. The other thing is the missing persons are so easily solved now with the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's always some guy that like has his long lost sister's first, last name, her social security number, and he's like, and I just can't find her. And then it goes on Unsolved Mysteries, and she goes, and I saw the Unsolved Mystery, and I was like, oh, that's my social security number. And like, so all he needed was the money to put an ad on TV, right?
So, I mean, nowadays, all you have to do is just, like, Google it and you'll find it. Or
Yeah.
go on TV and give, like, what do you call it? Identity thieves, your sister's social security
Yeah.
number.
It's my favorite one so far was a mystery of like somebody was mysteriously and for no specific reason murdering Catholic priests.
Huh.
And they're like, could a serial killer be on the loose? A serial killer that's murdering Catholic priests. Tonight, perhaps you could solve the mystery. And I saw it and I went, oh, no. What happened was, these priests were fucking kids and no one knew it yet. But somebody came back and killed them. That's what that was. And you guys are going to find this out in like 20 years.
Yep.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I'm solving the mysteries, basically, is what I'm saying. And it's great.
Nice.
Oh, my other
So,
my other favorite mystery, because there's one every episode, is wife goes missing, history of domestic abuse, and then they always interview the husband. He's like, I have no clue what could have happened to Cindy Lou. Yeah, it is true. I did punch her teeth out once, but I have no clue what happened. And I'm like, he did it. The husband did it. The husband did. I mean, maybe she's been stabbed to death and sunk in the bottom of the pond behind her house. I have no idea. He has no idea what happened to his wife. Like, dude, come on. It's always the husband.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you ever do find her tied to rocks at the bottom of the lake, it ain't my rocks because I have a bad back, so that's my alibi for any rocks that might be tied to her. She probably did it to herself.
It must have been so easy to be a cop back then.
Yeah.
So something happens, and what do you do?
Or not, because they weren't able to put two and two together yet.
I should say it was really easy to be a shitty cop. It was much more difficult to be a good cop. Because if you are a really crappy detective and one of these mysteries happens, what do? You look at your list of probably 3 methods to solve the mystery available to you, and if those don't work, like, all right, nobody confessed. Oh, that's number 1. Number 2, there wasn't a note that says who did it. Okay, that's out. And number 3, no one saw who did it. All right, I guess this is a mystery. Let's move on to the next case.
That actually reminds me of a Stephen King movie I just saw about a guy that murders his wife and throws her in the well, and the cop comes by and he's like, "So I'm here to investigate your missing wife." And the guy's like, "Well, Sheriff, you can look around if you want, but she just packed her bags and left." And a cow fell in the well the other day. That's fallen account of why we had to fill it in. But besides that, feel free to look around.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess everything's in order here, and he just left.
That's like the time that me and Miguel ran over a deer.
Murdered a person?
No, it gets like that, though. We hit a deer at 2 a.m. with the truck, right?
Right.
And so we're on the side of the road, and we went back and we like drug the dead, mangled deer out of the road so no one else would hit it. But in doing so,
I'd go Office Space on it. I'd be like, "You fucking deer, run into my car, will ya?"
well, it was pretty messed up. But in dragging it off the road, we became covered from like we had been in a civil, like we were Civil War surgeons, So two
Covered in
dudes,
blood.
yeah, 2 dudes, middle of nowhere. There's no way to wash off. It's not like I just have a towel in the back of my truck. So we're covered up to our elbows in like blood, and a cop comes by, and we were like,
Yes.
Yeah. Like, so, the cop's like, I come here to investigate your missing wife. And we're like, yep, deer fell in the well. And so, but like, this cop, like, 2 dudes covered in blood. We're like, yeah, we hit a deer. And she's like, well, y'all be safe. And drove away. Didn't even look in the ditch. Could have been a person. No idea. Like, we could have hit anybody. And I was like, you're a shitty cop. Also,
Well, y'all stay safe then.
yeah, and I know what it was. She don't want to do that paperwork. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if there's a body in the ditch, it'll keep till morning, and someone else will be on shift. Um, but like, just come on, dude, just be a
Hey,
cop.
what? So why are you two boys digging a person-sized hole in the woods in the middle of the night?
Cow,
Cause it's too suspicious to do it in the day.
cow,
Oh, okay then.
cow fell down the stairs. Like, yeah, so like, yeah, so cops do that sometimes. You're like, this is an obvious murder mystery, and they're like, well, I reckon I'll go now. Yeah, so anyway,
Oh
so that's
man.
what I've been doing with my time. I've been solving unsolved mysteries, and it feels good. It's real, like, this is neat. I know what happened in a lot of these.
Nice.
I kind of want to write a letter to the producers or whoever that show. I want to send them a shoebox episode by episode, and it'll just be like, husband did it, pedophile priest in a revenge killing, ghosts aren't real. Like, I want to solve all their mysteries for them.
Yeah. So next we have a continuation of the Mueller news because it doesn't end there.
Yeah. It never goes away, man. Like,
The So on top of Alex Jones openly threatening Mueller, and Facebook just saying, "Well, it's not against our policy.
well,
Sorry,
no,
we lost
no, hold on,
millions a year."
hold on. Actually, Facebook.
Count info.
Alex Jones was complaining about a shadow Facebook ban.
Right.
Uh,
Fucking what's that guy's name? Scott Adams says that all the time. That there's a shadow Twitter ban on him, even though I always see his tweets. So it's like, well, what? Are you sure? Or are you just playing victim? Because a lot of these a lot of these Trump supporter types do seem to like to pretend like they're a victim.
No, Scott Adams is playing a victim. Scott, we'll do a whole episode. Actually, let's do a whole episode later on Scott Adams because I want to do a deep dive on this dickhead.
Something I want to do so badly is read his blog after Trump is impeached and removed from office,
Yeah.
just to see what he has to say at that point.
Well, he got us too in the beginning. We didn't realize that he was such a Nazi dick, but
Yeah, like I followed his blog for a long time because he had what I consider to be an intellectual reason, a smart reason for Trump to potentially be a good president. And back in 2015, 16, I was more open-minded to the possibility of, well, maybe he's not all this bad. Now, because of back in 2008, Jon Stewart labeled him "fuckface McClown shoes" because he's a deplorable piece of shit that is super racist towards Obama and had all these weird conspiracy theories that he pushed really hard and got on Fox News about. So, I didn't have a lot of respect for him. And then John Oliver had his episode about him. And it's like, he's not really a smart businessman. He exploits his family name and promotes that. It's not.
Yeah.
But so beyond all that, I was already not thinking too highly of him. So when Scott Adams offered an alternative take on the whole Trump thing, I was open to hearing what he had to say. But the further I followed him down the rabbit hole, the more I began to realize is that the crux of his argument is that reality doesn't matter, perception is all that matters, and not just any perception, but a perception that Scott Adams agrees with.
Exactly. No, we'll do it. We'll do a whole episode on him. But the cool thing about it is that Alex Jones actually is banned from Facebook for 30 days.
Good.
He's also had videos removed from YouTube. Which is good because, like, I'm all about
I
free.
thought that he was completely removed from that for more shitty things he said about school shooting victims.
I guess they keep going back and forth. But my whole thing is I'm all about free speech, right? But I do agree with the limits, and this is where we have to we have to be very cautious. But the limits on free speech is when your speech is actively like causing harm to people, like yelling fire in a crowded theater or encouraging people to shoot the head of the FBI investigation because you're a fucking psycho.
Yeah, when Alex Jones stops advertising his brain chips that he sells it's a real thing that he sells to people to eat. When he stops advertising that and starts advertising his child sex rings, that's when we should probably be all like, well, maybe we shouldn't have him on the air anymore because he's promoting something really vile.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's not even the continuation of the Mueller news.
Yeah. Sorry, no, I just wanted to correct that because you're like they won't ban him from Facebook.
They decided that those videos were not against their policies.
But
that was at least the initial decision.
They did ban him. I wanted to say one more thing. So I was talking about I'm a fan of free speech, right? So There, and we talked about it earlier. There was a kid who I believe in his ability, like, and this is tricky, this is tough, but like, I believe that it falls under his free speech. He wore a shirt to school that says Border Wall Construction Company. Donald J. Trump, the wall just got 10 feet higher. So he was basically suspended from school for wearing this T-shirt. And a federal
It
judge.
does come off as hate speech these days.
It does, but at the same time, like, I mean, I think that you should be able to wear a shirt that just says, like, fuck you. You know what I mean? In fact, I'm actually wearing a T-shirt right now my lovely girlfriend got me that says Florida fucking state on it.
Nice.
Yeah, but I believe in free expression, and like this is kind of up against the line in my opinion for free expression. But if someone else wore a T-shirt that said like Hillary Construction Co. Lock him up, like I'd be like, all right, well, um,
I would almost be more afraid to wear a pro Hillary shirt than a pro Trump shirt.
right, and
Because
that's
people are super vicious against Hillary, and nobody defends her.
yeah,
Like, at least Trump has the deplorables defending him, right? Hillary didn't have anybody defending her,
yeah,
and she still won until the Russians stole the election.
and so I
But she
think
does look like
yeah.
she did like legitimately win, and hackers just changed the results by subtracting people from the voting from the voting list.
Now I don't know if
They
this
disqualified just enough people in just enough districts to cut a perfect swath and push Trump over the line by just a teeny tiny hair.
Now I don't know if like this shirt would be the same as wearing like like a Nazi armband, but like I don't know, man. I think it's he is the president, however illegitimate he may be, and like that shirt. I feel like does fall under free speech as much as we may not like it. What do they say about free speech? It protects speech that you hate, not speech that you
Right.
like. Yeah.
Correct.
So I mean, as
Yeah.
long as this guy's not,
'Cause, I mean,
calling for people's deaths.
Because you're saying, why should we protect hate speech? And I'll tell you why. It's because sometimes the people spouting hate speech are right. And
Yeah.
anyone hearing that could be like, oh, no, never.
And that's where you have to be very careful.
Pro-homosexual, right? Being
Yeah.
pro-homosexual used to be considered hate speech,
Right.
because because the idea of being gay and being a pedophile were never differentiated.
Yep.
50 years ago.
It was
right?
considered,
If you were gay,
it was
you were a
considered
pedophile.
sexually abnormal or
So-
sexual dysfunction. Yes.
So if you said anything pro-gay, that's the same as threatening someone's children, and they'd be like, "Oh!" Now, of course, that's not what you meant, but it's what they thought you meant. They
Yeah.
legitimately thought you meant that. So, that's why we have to defend hate speech, because sometimes the hate speech people are right, and given enough time, they can explain to people the truth of the matter.
And that's why I think it should be taken like these speech cases. I also defend what the administrator of the school did. The administrator of the school acted in what he felt was his best interest and said like, I want to suspend this kid because I feel like that this shirt is hate speech, not protected speech. It went to a judge. The judge made the ruling, and that's where I think it needs to go in these cases. I think, like, it's kind of like when people are like, well, if you label
What did the
things...
judge decide?
Yeah, if you label things hate speech, well, who's going to be the judge and jury? The judge and jury. I think that's why we have judges. Like,
So what did the judge decide?
the judge decided that the guy that was protected under the kid's First Amendment right, and they had to pay him like $25,000, I think, for the legal fees and let him back in school.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad he went to court. Like, I even if like things like rule against sort of stuff that I like, I want like yeah, I hate that T-shirt and I think that's fucking deplorable. But I'm glad it went to court and I'm glad it went before a judge. That means the process is working.
Hmm.
That's what made me so mad. On top of everything else, with separating the immigrant children from their parents, was they were trying to push speedier deportation so that you did not get to stand in front of a judge and like you were not afforded your basic civil rights. That's what makes me mad. Why wouldn't you want it to go in front of a judge? Because you're afraid that the process may go against what you want.
Yeah.
That's un-American. If you
Because
try
they
to,
know that
yeah,
what they're doing is wrong, so that's why they're trying to slip it out of you and push
right.
it through very
The only
quickly.
reason that you do stuff in the dark is because you're afraid of like being seen doing it. Like, and that's my
Yep.
problem. Like, let the asylum seekers go before a judge. They'll probably not get asylum the way most judges are being appointed, but at least they'll have their due process. You know, like. That's why I'm all like, we even, the high point of American exceptionalism, we even gave the fucking Nazis a real trial.
Mhm.
You know. Anyway, what was all right? So let's go. What was the other Mueller news? There's so much good stuff going on right now.
So the other thing with Mueller is that the GOP has actually begun to move to attack Mueller. They're
Yes.
trying to go at him by impeaching Rod Rosenstein.
Well,
Because if you're able to remove Rosenstein from office, then Trump would be able to appoint a toady who could fire Mueller.
the problem with that is though, it was the Freedom Caucus that did it.
It was Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows.
Yeah, it's part of the fucking Freedom Caucus. They should just be called the. I'm trying to think of a good word for them.
Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, the Freedom Caucus, the Dumbass Caucus. So they put these articles of impeachment forth right before they go on break. Paul Ryan doesn't support it. Mitch McConnell doesn't support it. So it's very, very unlikely that it's going to go anywhere.
Well,
Because
it can't. It can never pass because even with the way it's slanted in the GOP's favor right now, it would still require 16 Democrats to vote yes to remove him.
yeah, so it was just a political
It,
show. The scary thing is somebody said that they did it to maybe have President Trump jump in and just fire him himself, which I still don't know what's
yeah,
holding him back unless it's just Jim Mattis like bear hugging him from behind.
Trump's a coward.
Well, that
Trump's
too.
a coward. I know that on The Apprentice, he was all like, "You're fired," but in real life, Trump never fires people, right? Like that's why when he fired James Comey, he did it while Comey was on an airplane at a meeting somewhere overseas or on the other side of the
Yeah.
country, right?
Well, that's
He
why.
didn't. He never lets anyone know in person whenever
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
fire them.
He
He sends a goon to do it for him.
he did it to Rex Tillerson over a tweet because I mean, how cowardly can you be besides tweeting at somebody that they're fired from probably inside the toilet, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess maybe that's all that's holding him back is his own cowardice from just doing it himself. But the investigation, like, I heard old lumpy potato face, potato head, what the fuck? I can't remember his fucking name.
Sean Hannity.
Yeah, old Sean Hannity, old lumpy potato lumpy Sean Hannity, just was going on like he was fake laughing, so I knew that something was up. He was going like these fake like celebrity Jeopardy like shuck it Trebek like that kind of like about
Yeah.
like these are just these these convictions are just PR convictions. And I'm like, you can call a conviction whatever you want. But I mean, they got
Lumpy is in so deep.
yeah,
He's
they
in so deep.
they got Al Capone on tax evasion, so I mean, you could be like, yeah, they convicted me because the jury didn't like me. Well, you're still convicted, so I don't.
They have. I think it was Giuliani tried to argue that Trump can no longer get a fair trial because people see the fake news and that makes them dislike him.
Yeah. Oh, well then, all right, you know what? I got it. Why don't we round up a group of 12 immigrants and let them try Trump? Let's find
That'd
some
be
immigrants that have never seen TV and don't know who he is, and then we'll let him be tried by a jury of immigrants. I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with that.
So, speaking of trials, guess who next week is going to be starting his trial?
Is it Manafort?
It's Paul Manafort.
How
It
come
was
we
going to
haven't
be
given
this
him?
week, but it got kicked to next week.
How come we haven't given him a cool nickname like Paul Manafort? You know?
I don't know. Well, Trump's usually the one that gives people stupid nicknames. So,
Yeah, don't be like Trump. What I do like is so Mueller and the FBI firmly have Trump's lawyer Cohen in their grasp. Cohen's nuts are in a vice, right?
Yep.
And Cohen does what all toadies do. He is singing like a canary. And the greatest thing is he's also beating the patriot drum. I got to do what's right for my family and my country. What? Really? Says who
This
guy?
is-
Like,
Yeah, this is the same guy that said he would take a bullet for Trump, and then whenever the bullet starts coming, he's like, "Oh, I didn't mean that literally."
Yeah, as long as that bullet's made of money.
Yeah.
And I told you, like, Cohen's a lawyer, so he'll
So
know. The thing about lawyers
the
too.
first tape's already been released, by the way, the first of 12
Yeah, and they're
of him admitting to committing crimes. And so what Giuliani did was he hopped on TV and tried to say, "Don't listen to your ears, folks. Listen to the tape again and again and again until you hear America."
yeah, like so their arguments are getting weaker and weaker as the evidence mounts up more and more and more. And like oh my God, they have him admitting to paying off somebody possibly with campaign funds. I haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah, and he hears that and he's like, What are you talking about setting up a payment thing? Just paying cash." And so Giuliani's like, no, you listen to it again. If you listen, or he says that if you listen to it enough times, Trump's surprised that there is a payment thing. That's the what are you talking about setting up this thing? Pay them in cash. What are you talking about? He's like, see, he didn't know that it existed. And then you move on to the pay him in cash. Giuliani said don't pay them in cash. Pay them in a check.
So
It's like, what?
Yeah. So I like what someone said the other day. Someone goes the other day. They go, "If Giuliani was your lawyer, you'd already be in jail."
Yeah.
He's terrible, and I'm glad that Trump has him.
And I just realized while doing Giuliani's voice that he sounds a lot like the Monarch. Dial
does.
M for Giuliani.
I thought you were gonna say he sounds a lot like Commander Cobra, because that's kind of because he gives those weird like "We'll get you, GI Joe" if he just hissed a little bit.
It's more like Skeletor actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get you. He looks like Skeletor too, without the hood.
He is. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Giuliani Skeletor wearing a skin suit.
Pretty much. That's we figured it out. Skeletor got a skin suit and is gallivanting as Giuliani. So he's got Cohen. And here's the thing: I keep hearing people going like, "Oh, Cohen taped him. Isn't that illegal?" And I go, "No, because
No.
New York is a single-party consent state when recording, meaning that if you want to record somebody, the only person that has to consent is the one doing the recording." And someone's like, "He would get disbarred for this shit." I think he's more worried about going to federal pound me in the ass prison than getting fucking disbarred. Like,
Yeah.
that's why he's giving up all this evidence. And the greatest piece of evidence so far is, and I hope he produces proof of this, he says that Trump absolutely knew about the meeting in Trump Tower with the Russians. Like he was there.
Which, if that's well, first of all, we have a potential witness testifying. That is what Cohen is doing right now. It's a witness testimony.
Yeah.
So, to quote one Trump supporter, womp womp.
Well, he said, so here's what he said too. So he said that like there were other people that were there, right?
Right.
Now here's the great thing. So there was this great term I heard. I hear all these wonderful terms from the ultra conservative side. I think this was from Lumpy Sean Hannity. He called them perjury traps, right? Just going to get him in a perjury trap. Well, here's the great thing. So if Cohen can testify and prove that these other people were there in the meeting, people, by the way, who have already testified to federal authorities and before a Senate subcommittee hearing that they were not there, they are all now on the line for possibly obstruction and definitely perjury. So unless they want to go to jail, they're going to have to start giving people up. So as you watch, the snare begins to close and the net begins to wrap around these fucking morons, and you're going to start seeing them abandoning Trump like rats off a sinking ship.
I mean, that's basically what we've been seeing for months, for the last year even.
Yeah.
That's why the White House has been running on a skeleton crew, because nobody wants to work for that toxic cesspool.
I mean, well, I do just so I can like write my book. You know what I mean? So I can be like,
oh yeah, so you could be the next Michael Wolff, right? Just like,
dude, I would
chilling
be
in
happy
there,
being
fly on
the
the
Michael.
wall.
I would be happy being, and it was Michelle Wolf. I'd be happy being the next Michael Cohen, where I'm like, I got all the goods. I'm giving them all up. I'll give you anything you want. I just want to testify.
I gotta find his book because I'm not thinking of Michelle Wolff.
Oh, you're talking about the guy. You're talking about the guy.
Yeah,
that
it is
wrote...
Michael Wolff.
Oh, it's
Fire and Fury. Michael Wolff.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, my bad. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to be in there so I can be like, well, this was weird. Okay. What I would do if I got access to the White House. All right, here's my plan. Right.
There's a lot of M. Wolfs that have spoken out against Trump and Huckasanders.
It's almost as if he's surrounded by wolves.
The wolves are closing in. They're circling derp.
So here's my plan. All right, I'm in the White House, right? You know what I do?
What's that?
I go out of pocket. I spend a lot of money on a super duper espresso machine and coffee maker, and I set up a whole little like coffee station kind of in a place where
Oh,
like
you're creating a like a water cooler situation so
right,
people from
right,
work will
right.
chill around it and talk.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So I set that up right.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of hang out there and like I take notes. I make that kind of like I kind of have a little half office like right next to the little coffee water cooler thing, and then that's
Yep.
where I just write my book.
And according to Michael Wolff, people were eager to like volunteer their stories because they couldn't believe what was going on in this White
Yeah,
House.
yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, you don't know what's going on here, and they was just eager to tell their stories.
So
So,
yeah, I
eh,
mean, it's closing in. Trump's going to go. Like, there's no way you're going to face this mountain of evidence. And you can tell by the fact that, like, McConnell and Paul Ryan are walking that line of, like, they're not backing up articles of impeachment for Rosenstein.
yeah, they were
Um,
like, no, we don't want anything to do with
if you
this.
want to see where his way is going, and as much as I hate him, and I want him to just, and I know they live for, like, turtles live for 200 years, but I want McConnell to go or lose his seat, which would be just delicious.
Yeah.
I gotta give McConnell like this that he is probably the most astute political operator that I know of that we see regularly in Washington right now.
Yeah, like he is. We've talked about this before, but I don't know if we've talked about it on the air. He is the. How do I even explain this? He is everything that so many people wish that Trump were, right? Like
Yes,
where they behave publicly like an
like
idiot, but in secret they're actually a
yeah,
genius.
like McConnell's playing
Oh,
four-dimensional chess.
yes. Oh, like in like that one South Park episode where they had what's her name? The lady that shoots wolves.
Oh, you're talking about
Uh,
not Michelle Bachmann. She's the Michelle
no.
Bachmann was the crappier version of her. Yeah, the
Yeah.
one that was like I can see Russia from my door. Like
Well,
when
don't you know?
when
And she winks.
we thought she was the dumbest.
Sarah Palin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sarah Palin is basically a female Trump, but anyway, she's
Wait, well, to be
also
fair, she actually held political office and had
yeah.
some experience before just being handed the presidency.
Yeah. So, like on South Park, they have her up there on stage talking to reporters. Oh, don't worry, people. Maybe I'll run for vice president again next year on Chino. And then, like, she gets a phone call and she's like, "Oh, sorry, I've got to take this." And she goes behind the curtains. What is going on? What do you mean that the thing is already occurring? Give,
Yeah,
give
yeah,
me an
yeah.
update. She's secretly a genius.
Yeah, like
That's
you.
who that's who Turtle Man Mitch McConnell actually is. He's
Yeah.
up there on stage like, well, the Democrats are being so obstructive, and then as soon as the cameras are off, he's sort of like, you morons, what do you think you're doing? You gotta blah blah blah. Blah.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's definitely like if anybody is a political operator that's in their prime, like pulling strings and running stuff, it's McConnell. So look at McConnell when stuff goes down. If McConnell's not behind the articles of impeachment, that probably means that it is not politically advantageous to be behind the articles of impeachment. Also, as like the majority leader, if he doesn't support it, it ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a dude who obstructed a president for 8 years with a minority. Come on, give him his due. So the other thing, and I was talking about this too. Are there any other big stories that you want to hit before I kind of go into my closing story here?
Two.
All right.
God, actually three, kind of. First of all, Feckless Ivanka. In Feckless Ivanka news, she's closing down her clothing brand because it's not selling. It's her family name is completely toxic, and so she's trying to say, "Oh, well, I'm choosing to shut it down so I can focus on politics or
Yeah,
whatever."
I heard a great saying that like sums up this whole presidency, and it's called "Rooster taking credit for the sunrise." And I
Yeah,
went, "How?"
like in the movie Rockadoodle, he wasn't
Yeah.
able to crow that one morning, and everyone was like, he doesn't really raise the sun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's exactly this whole presidency. All of his family are like, because he was taking credit for the GDP growth and all that stuff, which is an artificial spike. And here's the thing, I want him to be successful as much as I dislike him, and I think he's a deplorable piece of garbage. I want his policies. I wish they were successful. I want the country to be successful, and I want the world to be successful. Right?
Right, but I mean, it's like a pumpkin farmer. You want him to be successful, giving you a heart transplant, but he's never done it before. He doesn't know what he's
Yeah, the
doing,
odds are against him.
and
Yeah.
yeah, there's no fucking way he can do it because he's way out of his element.
He's not a good president. Airbud is not actually going to help you win the basketball game. Those are the facts
Right,
of life, despite what the Lifetime movies make you think.
exactly.
Um, Yeah, so
So
of course her brand's shutting down. Like, no one wants to buy that crap, especially the people you're going to sell to.
yeah, the people she would sell to is people with money, and people with money don't tend to be the deplorables. The people that just lost their coal mining job that expect Trump to bring it back.
Yeah, well, the problem with me, and we talked about this earlier, and I actually have been looking at the deplorables a little bit differently. In that, like, it sucks because politically, you and we're losers. We lost.
Yep.
You
And
know,
we're aware that we lost.
we're aware that we lost, and that sucks, and we know that he's bad for the country, and that he's toxic, and that like he is winging it, and he's not doing a good job. So
Right.
we expect the coming economic crisis, and we know that things are going to get bad. But his
Right.
supporters, the people that he duped right now, are riding high on what they think is winning, and they believe him when he says that he brought them great economic prosperity and this, that, and the other. And they believe that they are winning. But when he is gone and all that's left are the echoes and the results of his bad policies, and they have less than they had before, like, it's going to be even harder for them to realize that they too lost when he won.
Yep. That's going to hit them so much harder.
I mean, we all lost. That's the thing, is like most Americans want the same thing. We all want reasonable access to health care and education and a reasonable distribution of wealth. Not like grabbing land and like chopping off Jeff Bezos's head, but like a reasonable share of the wealth. That's all that people want. People want to think that if you work hard and things fall your way, and you should be able to rise as high as talent will allow. You know, but that's not what's going to happen, and they're going to be even more upset when the chickens do come home to roost.
Yay, chickens. All right, so hopping straight into That's Cute news. This is about the farmers, and I'm going to start with the overabundance of meat right now. Thanks to Trump's tariffs, the trade war is now heating up, and the first victims in America is its meat industry. There's a 2.5 billion pound pileup of spare meat just sitting around going unused. Slaughterhouses have begun turning away hogs due to having an overabundance of surplus meat.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But the other thing was that Trump has been fucking other farmers, and so a $12 billion payout had to be paid out to basically give them the welfare that they need to survive this fiscal year, because he fucked them. They can't sell crops anymore because of the trade war heating
Yeah.
up.
So he's trying to say it's going to be better, but let me tell you something. If you're a farmer, China with its people, guess what, man? 1 billion people can eat a lot of meat, and they can eat a lot of soybeans. You want them to buy your stuff. There is no other country full of 1 billion people that will make up for the Chinese losses.
Yeah, like to give you an idea of how big China is, 1 out of every 7 people on Earth live there.
Yeah. So if you meet 7 people, chances are one of them's like, "Hey, I'm Chinese. How you doing?"
So the final thing that I have for this week is something that I really should have looked up something earlier on, and that's why I'm very quickly Googling things. So, listeners out there in TV land and radio land and YouTube podcast land, if y'all want to get in contact with us, we'll probably throw you back a bone and do almost whatever you ask. One listener asked me if I would go on a Duck Dynasty rant in the next episode, and so I told him, yeah, okay, I'll do that.
I'm willing to meet your Duck Dynasty rant, because I have some things on Duck Dynasty, and I'll go ahead and preview with it. I think we've all been a little bit unfair to Duck Dynasty.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Go ahead then.
Oh, I thought you were going to give me your rant, and I was going to give you a reply. But you want me to start with why I think we've been unfair to Duck Dynasty?
Sure, because I still got to Google like Duck Dynasty criticisms.
You don't have your own criticism. You got to pull some up. Well, let me give you.
I've never seen the show,
Oh.
and I forgot to research it. Ahead
As
of time.
far as shows go, it's not a horrible watch. I watched an episode where they were like, "Hey man, we found a beehive," and the one old hillbilly goes, "There's nothing sweeter than honey from the forest." So of course, the show is like 4 rednecks trying different ways to get the honey without getting stung, and of course they get stung. It was delightful. Problem is though, their patriarch, Phil Robertson, I think he's like a traveling preacher. He made his fortune because he invented a duck call that he made by hand. That was like revolutionary. Then he drove around from like store to store selling them like one batch at a time, and he finally got them sold to like Walmart. So he's a self-made man. You know what I mean? Like he's rich now, but point is he's still a rich like white guy from Louisiana, right? But he's and like he grew up tough, but like at the same time he's rich. So he's people have gotten really upset because of things that like he said he doesn't understand homosexuality and wouldn't you rather have a woman, this, that, and the other, and biblically it doesn't make sense. And then like he also, and this was more problematic, he said that like when he was growing up in Louisiana, like black and white people were together, and the black people seemed fine and happy, and like in the 50s up until all that civil rights stuff happened in the 60s and got them all stirred up.
That is a point of view, but it's like a point of view the racists used to explain to other people why this was happening, so that more people would agree with the racists, so that non-racists would agree with the racists.
So people flipped out, and I go, did you really think the dude with the beard that made all his money off of duck calls and lives in the woods, did you expect him to be a beacon of enlightened thought? Like the anchor to everything that he thinks is like the King James Bible. Like, of course, this is his thought process. It's not in any way surprising, and maybe it's because we grew up in the South and we've been hearing stuff like that our whole lives. I go, yeah, I've heard all that. It's wrong, but like people still think like that.
Right. I mean, if it's not the first time you're hearing it, then it's way less shocking. But at the same time, it does bother me how people will cling to the idea that the Bible comes out against homosexuality, but the Bible comes out against a lot of things. It's just as much of a sin to wear mixed fibers in your clothing, right?
Shrimp. Yeah, absolutely. I think the bigger...
I'll give him a pass on the shrimp and the cleft hoof things and all that other stuff, because that's specifically addressed in the food laws. But the mixed fiber is never addressed again. It's okay to sell your children into slavery is never addressed again. You should stone your disobedient children, never addressed again. Well, all that still... Plus, Jesus did say, I'm not here to change the old law. I'm here to fulfill it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it. But
it's cherry picking is where I take issue with it.
Exactly. But what makes me mad is...
They're not as hard up on all the rules, just the ones that seem to be popular to talk about.
The thing that makes it hard for me to hate this guy is he's very sincere in his beliefs, as wrong as they are, and it's heartbreaking to me because they seem like very nice people. But again, the reason that like black people seem so happy in Louisiana before the Civil Rights Act was because if they didn't seem happy, they'd get lynched. So... Yeah, the idea is like, I'm so happy here in Louisiana in 1945. I tell you what, like, yeah, of course, because if not, you'll be killed. Like, that sure has a way of making people seem happy, doesn't it?
Yep.
And yeah, so everybody jumped all, and then maybe it's because we're inoculated to it, but everyone jumped all over and I'm like, watch these people for 5 minutes and I can already tell you who they are. I've probably been to a church just like theirs,
Yeah. So... again, I haven't seen the show, and I don't really know that much about it until I'm like reading stuff about it right here. But I will say, because our viewer wanted us to talk about Duck Dynasty negatively, I'll do that here. I'll play devil's advocate and say no, they're all a bunch of amoral hicks.
Well, the other thing is too is their whole hick thing. Their hick thing is a put on. You know that, right?
No, like I said, I don't know anything about him. But here's an article from 2016 that said Duck Dynasty ending, Phil Roberts controversial quotes. So did it end?
Oh, I don't know if it ended or not. I know people still support their merchandise at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's her name? Paula Deen, maybe? She was out of stores for a while, but then eventually came back. And I will actually go to bat for her, because what got her into trouble was someone asked her if she had ever used the N-word in her life, and she's like, I mean, I probably when I was younger,
dude.
And that was enough to ruin her career.
Well,
that's where I will hop on board with the deplorables and say, well, now you crazy left is going a bit too far here, okay?
Well, I mean, she also had a plantation-style wedding at like one point. Paula Deen's dumb. Like, and if someone goes, especially if you're rich and famous, hey, have you ever used the N-word? You just go, nope.
That's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not true, you're just like, no, never. But, okay, so...
You know what? I take it back. I'm sorry. Remember any of the kind of support I gave to Phil and them? I take it all back, because there's another one that says he expressed belief that girls should get married when they are still young teenagers. Women make better wives if they are married at a younger age. You got to marry these girls when they're about 15 or 16, and they'll
Oh
pick your
wow.
ducks. Oh, you know what? Never mind. Fuck this dude and his fucking beard, man.
See, I mean, the racism and homosexuality. Yeah, no, homophobia. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. The homophobia and other stuff was like, we've heard it, but the pedophilia, that's still kind of new to us, so it's more shocking.
Oh my god, this dude has a master's degree in education just like me.
Huh.
Oh
Oh,
my
you
god.
finished your master's degree?
I
I knew
got
you still had like 2 classes
I
to
got a
go.
couple classes, but point being, it bothers me that me and this dude have both have
The
master's
same level of
degrees.
education.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, he was suspended for racist and anti-gay comments. Robertson made headlines in 2013 after GQ published an interview in which he made racist and anti-gay comments. In the interview, Robertson called homosexuality a sin, likening it to bestiality, and said that black people were happy in pre-civil rights era Louisiana. Naturally, this sparked a lot of outrage, and A&E announced Robertson would be suspended from the show. However, the network reversed the decision 9 days later. A year after this dust-up, Robertson said he wasn't homophobic and explained the remarks he made about black people. I'm as much of a homophobe as Jesus was. People who are participating in homosexual behavior, they need to know that I love them. He said in Good Morning America in 2014, "There's one race on this planet. It's called the human race. We're all the same. To me, there is absolutely nothing that has color to do with it." He said that STDs are punishment. God says one man, one woman. And everyone says, oh, that's old hat. That's just old Bible stuff. Robertson said in an interview with Family Research Council's Tony Parks in 2015. But I'm thinking, well, let's see now. A clean guy, a disease-free guy, and a disease-free woman, they marry and they keep their sex between the two of them. They're not going to get chlamydia and gonorrhea and syphilis and AIDS. It's safe. He continued, either it's the wildest coincidence that or ever that horrible diseases follow immoral conduct, or it's God saying there's a penalty for that kind of conduct. I'm leaning more towards there's a penalty for it. Well, you know what? Actually, I want to counter his old statement from 20. What was this? 15? I want to counter that. You know, if one guy and one guy go to bone down and neither one of them has any STDs, they're not going to get any STDs from each other.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a
Let's
whole.
say let's say they're polyamorous and they invite a third guy and a fourth and a fifth, and none of them have STDs.
Yeah.
None of them get any STDs. Now let's say one man and one woman, virgins. The man does heroin, gets an STD from the needle, goes to keeps the sex between him and his wife. Oh, now she has an STD. Oh, I guess one man and one woman is amoral, huh?
Yeah, that's a problem. Like I said, I take back anything nice I just said about him.
No, that's fine. You can. Or we play devil's advocate off.
Well,
of
no,
each
I'm.
other.
My
It
point is,
works.
I'm taking back my devil's advocacy when he was like, "You gotta wife them down when they're 14, and they'll do what you say." I'm like, "That's fucking sex slavery, you fucking psycho."
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta start dicking them when they're young, and they'll never fucking turn on you. Jesus Christ, what the hell's wrong with you?
Men should use the man's bathroom and women should use the women's bathroom.
That's
He
because you
wrote in
don't
the
understand.
email.
Yeah, oh my God, like, dude,
Just because a man may feel like a woman doesn't mean he should be able to share a bathroom with my daughter or yours. That is called common sense.
Right,
Now
but-
it's called bigoted.
But at the same time, you're all right with a grown man, like, you know,
Fucking your daughter.
Yeah, dicking down your daughter when she's 14, but you're afraid of a trans person in the bathroom with your daughter. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Like, you can't have your pedophilia and eat it too. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you can't pretend to worry about the safety of your daughter and then go, you know what? I think she ought to get plowed by an old buck when she's 12, and that way she'll learn her place in the man. Come on, dude, get real. Also,
So-
get yourself a publicist so they can go, all right, now tell me what you're going to tell the camera. Okay, so all that stuff you said to me, you're going to shut up and not say it out loud. Cool? Good. All right. You want to keep your job? Yeah. Of course, they all went like super pro-Trump, too.
Right. So the friend said that he didn't really follow politics, right? Or the listener said that he didn't really follow politics right up until he heard that what's his name, Robertson? I already closed the thing out. Until the guy from Duck Dynasty said that he was a Trump supporter, and that's when this guy decided that he's not going to be a Trump supporter ever again.
Yeah, I mean that's you can judge a person by like who their supporters are. You know what I mean? For me, it was
Yeah.
whenever like he had the Night of Stars, and it was like it was a bunch of people like really old and crazy Scott Baio, and like a bunch of like B-list celebrities that no one cared about. I'm like, these are the best you got. All right.
I suppose for me it was even as far back as 2008. He really lost me forever with the whole birther movement.
Yeah, anybody that was pro-birther does not have a vote for me, and you'll never get one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Duck Dynasty. Oh, and their show was canceled because after all this came out, their viewership dropped to 4.6 million, then it dropped to like 1 million, and then people were like, "I'm not watching
What did
this."
it start at?
Maybe in the
Before
tens,
the 4.6.
maybe in the tens of millions.
Oh wow, so it really dropped to like
Yeah. They
nothing.
basically killed their own show, which was fine because they're just like they're super rich anyway, and it's not gonna. It's not like people that buy duck calls are gonna go. You know what, man? I don't know about this guy's duck call. He's anti-gay. He's a bigot. Like I don't think anybody buying duck calls is generally are gonna buy ethically buy duck calls. So that doesn't hurt their actual fortune. They're just their TV show's gone. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is that's why I said like they were kind of endearing hillbillies. And even as we just read, like, oh God, no. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Never mind. Fuck them and their fucking beards.
As soon as you look into them, it's like, oh,
Yeah, as soon as I read
it's so
about him,
much worse.
yeah, as soon as I read about him for more than 2 minutes, I went, oh, this guy's an asshole, like an absolute
Yeah.
asshole.
So, you said that you had something to wrap up the show with.
Oh, I mean, that was pretty much I wrapped it up. That's my whole point. I was going to wrap up earlier with like the people who are really getting screwed in all this, and we have to remember are the people that went hardcore Trump. You know, the people that like legitimately thought he was going to bring back coal or manufacturing jobs, and basically did not back a candidate who realized that green energy was what was going to put those jobs back in the Rust Belt. And those are the people. Oh, all right, so there's a great quote from Julius Caesar, a great asshole of historical antiquity, and I love this quote to death. So he was arguing with a Gaelic chieftain about like submitting to Rome, and the guy was like, "I'm not going to do it. I fought Rome before, and there are people back home that don't like you, so they would be happy if I beat you. Why should I submit to you when I'm sitting in this high place?" And Caesar basically goes, "Well, you know what, man? A lot of times when the gods wish to punish a man, they raise him to wonderful heights of success so that when he falls, it will be that much more traumatic."
Yep.
And that's kind of how I
I
feel
think
about this whole thing. Like, the
I,
fall?
I was hoping that that fall would come when Hillary won the election
Yeah.
and Trump just disappeared.
Well,
But
that's the thing. When he goes down, he's going to take other people with him. And
oh, right now he's going to take so many people down hard, especially if it's difficult to arrest to put a president in jail. We're already seeing every scorched earth all around him. Everyone that he has touched is turning to
but
shit.
the
He
people
has the inverse Midas touch.
and the people that
They're
I'm
all
yeah,
falling apart.
and the people that I'm worried about, like, it sucks. Is like, like the people that just wanted to see, the United States like economically kind of start booming again, like that wanted to see us do well, like the farmers and like that, the people that hardcore went Trump. They're the ones that are going to suffer the most,
Yeah, hopefully many lessons can be learned from this, but we can't if let's say we let Trump just walk away from this and Fox News just keeps on lying about what happened. They're never going to learn their lesson because Fox News is going to tell them, "Oh, it's actually the Democrats that
Well,
just caused this downturn,"
what
and they'll never realize what hurt them, so they'll
yeah.
never realize
Well,
how they should change.
what sucks, and this is what I hate the most, is he'll be gone,
Yep.
but his economic policies will remain because that's the way the economy works. Policies take time to either show fruition or to show why they were a bad economic policy generally,
Yeah, even
right?
if the next person comes in and fixes everything,
Yeah.
his ruination of certain parts of the economy is still going to come through at some
Yeah.
point. And
It'll-
when they do, it'll happen usually when a Democrat's in office.
Because what I want most is I want him to have to explain why his own economic That's the only reason I would want him to have a second term. I don't, but if he does have a second term, then I am going to sit in anticipation and watch him explain if it finally catches up in his second term, why the economy sucks, why these
He's
farmers are out jobs, why the surplus is going up, why the GDP is going down. I want him to go on
it's
and explain, but he won't because he's a fucking coward.
It's he'll do exactly what he's doing right now with the farmers. He goes out there and says farming is doing better than it ever has before. Okay,
Well, he told him,
so
he
if
said,
anyone
don't.
tells you otherwise, it's fake
Oh
news.
yeah, he
Here's a
said, don't
free
listen to all
hat.
this. Just trust me. It's like no, like there is a giant pile of meat that's not being sold because you're an idiot. Like,
Yep.
and you don't listen to your economic advisors. Like, oh my God, yeah. So, yeah, we're gonna see another like, and a lot of the stuff he's doing is textbook stuff that caused the Great Depression or made it worse.
Yep.
That's my favorite thing. Is
Yeah, they're already starting to use economic policies which we haven't had to employ since the Great Depression to deal with his buffoonery.
yeah.
Like the huge payouts to farmers was something they did during the Great Depression.
Yeah, well, also like the surplus of stuff that basically the government had to buy up and destroy so that the market
Yeah.
wouldn't tank. Tariffs. There was the Smoot-Hawley tariffs that they passed that made the depression worse because they thought if you put tariffs on imports, it would generate revenue for local products, and it didn't. And these are things we all know. And that's the thing is like,
Just fun things for us to talk about in future episodes of Muckrakers.
yep.
But
And
for now, everyone listening, just remember that if you have some pet peeve that you would like for us to rant about, let us know at thosemuckrakers@gmail.com, and we'll probably do it. Rate us on iTunes. Give us any amount of
yeah,
stars. I
man,
don't
we
care
need
how
yeah
many.
we need
Uh,
some stars for sure, dude.
and instead of your review, just have like a list of demands. I want you to talk about this. And I want you to talk about that. Okay? Lifesavers should be all green.
I
Like,
think
okay, we'll argue that. Point.
especially if we could get a super alt right following, I would love it if they would just post their thing like, what about the Hillary sex rate? I'd be like, I would love to talk about that.
The pizza place that didn't have a basement, but
Yep.
and it did encourage Trump supporters to go in there with a gun. So
Yeah, shoot the place up. Yeah. I'd like to tell people, please tune in because maybe tonight you can solve a mystery.